Welcome everybody to linuxacademy.com. My name is Terry, and in today's video we're going to continue our exploration of everything related to Nginx, the warp-powered web server. So now what we're going to do is we're going to shift focus a little bit from the individual configuration items in Nginx to more of a stack discussion. So most people are familiar with the LEMP Stack, which stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. There's a similar stack that is newer, certainly, than the LAMP stack. It's called the LEMP Stack, and that stands for Linux, Nginx, the E being for Nginx. MySQL is not the database of choice, it's MariaDB, and PHP being the final P in the LEMP stack. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install each of those items, and we're going to configure phpMyAdmin as a proof of concept for our configuration. So obviously we already have Linux running. We actually already have Nginx running. But one of the things we need to do is we need to go ahead and install PHP and its various components, and then make some setting changes. Again, for CentOS 7, everything is the same that you're going to see, with the exception of service starts, which use system control instead of the sysvinit service starts. So let's do a yum install PHP. And PHP should pull down the latest version of PHP that's in our repository, which in our case is PHP 5.3.3 and its components. So let's go ahead and pull that down. And it's just basically pulling down the common command line information, the PHP common libraries, etc. And once PHP is installed, we want to install something called PHP FPM. So PHP FPM is called the Fast CGI Process Manager. It's really an alternative PHP Fast CGI implementation with a little bit of additional features for large or high traffic sites, especially those that are running Nginx, as a matter of fact. It has adaptive process spawning as one of its new primary features, and what we're going to do is we're going to be configuring it not only to run as a service, but we're going to be using it so that it runs through a Unix socket, which will make our PHP FPM processes on our web server, and especially through phpMyAdmin, run faster. So the install, once you've added the EPEL repository, and again, make sure that if you haven't added the EPEL repository, that you do so before doing this, because it will have newer versions of all of these in the repository. Let's go ahead and clear this. And if we do a yum install PHP FPM is all that's necessary in order to get it installed. Now you could simply set it up doing a check config and service from this point, and it would run as a service. And it would listen on port 9000. It's the default and doesn't take any network overhead to bypass it. But what we want to do is we want to set it up as a socket so that we don't have to traverse anything on the local network. So once it's installed, we want to go to the etc directory, and we should see a php fpm.d directory. So let's try to find it here. So php fpm.d should then have a www.configuration file in it. We're going to edit that file and look for a particular line called listen. And we can do that just by passing in the listen to VI. So let's see if we can find listen. We're going to be looking for listen equal var run PHP. So here's listen equal. So what we're going to do is we're going to comment this out here. And as it notes up here, we're going to pass in the path to the Linux socket. So all we're going to do is we're going to change this to listen equal var run php fpm.d var run php fpm www.sock. So that is going to actually create the socket file that FPM will use once it starts the service. That's the only change we're going to be making in this file. And we do have to create that file because it needs to exist when we start the service. So we can just do a touch on that file, var run php fpm www sock. And once we've done that, we want to change the ownership appropriately so that Nginx owns that file and can manage it. So var run php fpm www.sock. So if we cat out our www.configuration and we grep for listen, we just want to verify that we have listen equal var run php-fpm www.sock, and that matches the socket file that we've created. You can actually create any file as long as you have it consistent within the configuration file and the file that we touch itself. Finally, let's do a check config on PHP FPM, and we'll turn that on. And if we happen to be running CentOS 7, it would just be a system control enable php-fpm.service. And we're going to do a service php-fpm start, which would be system control start php-fpm.service. So now that we have this php-fpm fast CGI processor starting and listening over a Unix socket, which is a lot faster than listening over our local network, the next thing we can do is we can install and configure our database, which will configure our LEMP stack, and then we'll verify by using PHP myadmin. But for PHP and PHP FPM on our LEMP stack, that's all there is to it. My name is Terry for Linux Academy.